This is episode number 56 with Susie Tong Parikh, the founder of Mini Ruby. Welcome to the Good Life Coach podcast. I am your host, Michelle Lamoureux. The intention of this show is to awaken you to your fullest potential. Join me each week for inspiring interviews to elevate an area of your life, as well as interviews with women entrepreneurs who are creating success on their own terms. Each episode provides actionable tips to guide you to design a life you love. Hey there and welcome back. If you are new to the show, I'm so happy you are joining us today. And if you've been tuning in each and every week, so happy you are here. This is a holiday week in the United States. That is, if you are tuning in the week of Thanksgiving, and I wish you all a very peaceful, joyful, safe holiday. And also hoping that if you need a little bit of inspiration or distraction in a positive way, that the show brings you some joy this week. So joining us today is a female entrepreneur, and her name is Susie Tong Parikh. She was an investment banker whose kids had gone off to school, and she knew that she wanted to have something of her own. And she launched a company called Mini Ruby, which is an online retailer of fine, contemporary children's wear for girls and boys and babies. And so today we are hearing about her entrepreneurial journey, how she's balancing being a mom and an entrepreneur and all the things. So whether you've wanted to start your own business, whether selling products or services, I hope that you enjoy today's conversation. Let's get into the show. Welcome, Susie. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for having me on your show.
So I am intrigued by what you're doing and would love to just kick it off by asking you to take a minute to introduce yourself and help us understand what led you into the world of selling contemporary children's clothing.
Sure. Happy to do that. I am Susie Tong Parikh, and I run Mini Ruby Contemporary Childrenswear at miniruby.com. And we're an online kids clothing site for girls, boys, and baby from newborn to teen sizes. We carry over 90 brands of kids' clothes, from everyday clothes for school and play to special occasion dresses, holiday dresses, winter coats, sports, and ski wear. We also carry shoes and accessories, and we continue to add new brands every season. And that's pretty much Mini Ruby in a nutshell. Prior to that, I worked in finance for most of my 20s and early 30s. And then after I stepped off that career track, I had my two kids. And at a certain point, the kids were in school and I wanted to get back to work. But investment banking was, at that time, sort of a daunting segue back into the working world, given the time commitment and the travel. And so I decided I wanted to start my own business, and kids' clothing is something that I spent a lot of time looking at, trying to find cute outfits for my kids, and that's how I started Mini Ruby.
So that's really interesting. And I think that there's a lot of women who think, gosh, I'd love to start an online children's brand. They may like children's clothes or just fashion in general, or want to start something entrepreneurial. But the act of actually launching it versus just thinking about it is a whole other ballgame. So let's dive a little deeper into your story. So did you think that there was a need in the marketplace in terms of what you were creating, or was it more just of a passion of like, yeah, I like children's clothes, let's start here?
The first step was, when my kids were in preschool, 2 and 4 years old, again, wanting to get back to work and wanting to start a business. So that was my first idea. And then I asked myself, well, what kind of business do I want to start? And kids' clothing, like I said earlier, was something that I spent a lot of time looking at and thinking about, and I'm very passionate about. And so to marry those two ideas together, starting a kids' clothing business just sounded like a great idea and something that I would really love doing. And at the time, there were, a handful of national brands, big box brands, big box stores, and they sell wonderful and great clothes. But I was looking for something a little different, something with a little bit more of a contemporary styling. And I discovered some really great boutique brands, in my neighborhood and back in New York where we moved up from. And I had always loved those brands. And as I investigated further, I realized that there were a lot of small boutique clothing brands, and I came up with this idea of aggregating all of these boutique brands into a one-stop shop or a one-stop online store so that we could introduce all these brands to other moms and other parents and grandparents. And that's basically, where the idea came from.
It's so cool. So you did want to create something unique that you didn't see exist. You obviously liked these boutique stores and the clothing lines and wanted to support them because you liked maybe dressing your kids in things that not everyone was in. It sounds like, because I think that can be, the challenge sometimes when they're little and you want to get them some outfits that are kind of cute and a little different, and that are a little more fashion forward, if you will. But
Right.
yeah, so I'm just curious then, though. So you were in the world of investment banking. You were not an entrepreneur. Starting up an online business is a huge undertaking, and then you also had to talk to these boutiques and see if they'd be interesting. So take us into those early days of your company, of just getting started. Like, how did that go? Like, what were some of your first steps?
Right. I basically dove right into it. Once I had settled upon the desire to start my own business and settling on kids' clothes and filling this need that I saw in the marketplace, I decided, I am going to reach out to my favorite brands. We started out with a dozen brands, and I'm just going to reach out and cold call and see what the reception is. So I called, some of my favorite brands and gave them my pitch and explained, what I want to do. And at that time, the online kids clothing space was still very small. It's still
Mm.
very fragmented, but it's growing so quickly. And so they were very receptive to my idea, to my business idea, and they were really excited. And I think that, given the level of care that they saw that I was going to put into this business and the commitment and the investment that they were willing to partner with me on this business. And so that's where I started. But I don't have a retail background. My
Mm.
background is a business background. I studied, at the University of Pennsylvania. I studied economics, and then my first job was on Wall Street in investment banking. And so I'm very familiar, corporate banking. So I'm very familiar with dealing with, big companies, institutional investors, and so very familiar with how to look at a business, how to dissect a business, how to model a business, run evaluation. So very comfortable with all the numbers and the metrics used to measure a business that way. And then the fashion side was really all me. That comes
Mm.
from my love of clothes and fashion and looking at, new design and looking at it as art. And so that's just a personal passion of mine. And Mini Ruby was just a great way to put those together.
Yeah, completely. And so how many years ago did you launch your company then?
5 years ago,
Okay, so it's
2006.
been 5 years. And so in those early days, was it just you, or, who did you bring on your team? Because you
Yeah,
had to build out a website. Like you said, you knew nothing about actual retail. So what did that look like?
it was just me. I started out of my house. We used one of our rooms in our house, and I had a desk and I had my computer. I had my inventory in my house with boxes,
Mm.
and I designed all my packaging. I visited a lot of stationery stores to come up with the best packaging that I could find. I actually was an expat in Japan for 5 years while I was working in banking, and learned and got a lot of inspiration from some of the packaging
Mm.
and wrapping in Japan, which is just beautiful, and
Mm.
sort of um, um, you know took that and added my own style and flair, and and off we went. So yeah, so I started out out of my house with 12 brands, and that was our office and our warehouse, and I added a few staff over the years, and then finally we outgrew my house and my space, and the business was growing so quickly we just couldn't keep up with it anymore. I was running boxes to the post office. I was running boxes to the UPS store. People would place overnight orders at 6 p.m. and they'd have to get to California. So it became, a bit of a stretch to keep running it out of our house. And so we finally got this space outside of Boston, and it's great. It's great.
So this is actually interesting because I forgot about the whole actually shipping out and packaging. So this wasn't
Yeah,
just an online store where, uh, some of it is the retailers are shipping out. You
yeah,
are, or the actual designers, you are actually keeping inventory. So how did you manage all of that? Like that's actually a big
yeah.
deal, figuring out, how many pieces and what sizes. And I can imagine that room had a lot going on in there with the boxes and everything else too. So
Yeah,
tell us more
certainly
about
did.
that. That's really interesting.
It's a different model. So retail is a very big industry. It's a very big business, and there are a lot of different models for retail. Our model is we actually have the inventory, and I want it that way. I want the inventory. I want to pack it. I want to make sure it's steamed. I want to make sure it looks professional when it goes out to the customer, and then when the customer receives it, it's something special. I mean, these are kids' clothes. It's even more special when it comes for your kids. For me, it's very special when it comes for my kids as opposed to when I'm ordering something for myself.
Mm.
So I just want the customer to feel that it's very special, especially with grandmothers. We love our grandmothers who call us and talk to us about their grandkids and what recommendations we might have for them. It's just all very special, and so we wanted our packaging to reflect that. And so in our warehouse we have our inventory, and we have I've put in place certain steps that we take in order to pick and pack an order, and when it goes out, everything is checked twice, thrice,
Mm.
because perfectionists, and we just like to have very tight control on our product and what we're sending out to our customer, because we're very specific on how we want that delivered.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about all the logistics, and I can hear your passion and your level of, focusing on every little detail to create a really like a really lovely customer experience. So the people who are getting it are
Right.
feeling the love that's in this brand, how you're packaging it all up and sending it out with such care. I mean, even saying steaming the clothes. I mean, I order things from Nordstrom. I'm sure nobody's steaming whatever's showing up at my house. Things are just coming and going. So,
Well, we're
then
not steaming everything, but
okay, well, still, the fact that you mentioned that I thought was kind of cool, but also, then you have returns and stuff too. So why did you decide online versus actually having a little boutique, for example? Because now I'm thinking, oh, why online versus having your own store?
yeah. So we wanted to build an online business because we wanted it to be scalable. And with a brick and mortar, it's a little hard to scale. We see a lot of volume. We've had tremendous growth since inception. And we're trying to keep up with our demand. We're trying to hire more staff. We're working on technology and tools in the back end, to hopefully streamline our processes. And we're also looking at trying to tighten up our relationships with our vendors and manufacturers to make sure we have product when we sell out. The online retail business model is there's a shift from brick and mortar to online, and a lot of that is happening in the broader retail market. You see that with Barney's. So Barney's declared bankruptcy. I know what I read. Their landlord raised the rent, which basically caused them to go into bankruptcy, and then they were looking for a buyer. And I think that people have been trying to understand why Barney's ran into bankruptcy, and part of it is the real estate cost of the brick and mortar, and it's also the shift from brick and mortar shopping to online shopping. And I think that sometimes it's hard to shift gears so quickly, especially if you have, a big store and a lot of infrastructure dedicated to a certain business model. And then overnight, not overnight, but steadily over the past decade or so, it's been shifting to online. And so, it's hard. And I think that sometimes companies can, get behind the times, and it's hard to keep up with online shopping. So we feel that online shopping is really the wave of the future, and hopefully we're setting up our business to capture that growth.
Yeah, I think that was really insightful of you to know that from the beginning. Did you actually do a business plan or did you just launch?
I did. It was after the fact. It wasn't too detailed, but the first thing I did was to basically, I sent myself an email, to be quite honest.
Mm.
And I do a lot of that. I take notes. I make lists for myself through email. I just send myself an email, and quite honestly, I leave it unread until it's done. And so that was sitting in my inbox for a while. Kids clothing, online business. And then after I had formulated that, and then we talked about it, then I actually started to do some research about the market opportunity, the market size of the kids clothing market, which is something like 60 billion, which is huge.
Wow.
And then who are the other players? Are there any other main players? Who's the kids clothing market space dominated by? And again, it's the national brands. It was big box retailers. And a lot of people weren't really paying attention to it. And so that was one of the keys for us.
Yeah, it's super smart. And how did you start growing? Was it word of mouth in the beginning or were you advertising? Like, how did you grow it so much in 5 years?
So we were advertising on Google,
Mm.
and I was basically telling my friends, and a couple of really, really great dear friends had trunk shows for me,
Oh, cool.
neighbors, and these are just wonderful people who really were interested in helping me, and so that got the ball rolling. And once people started to visit the website, there's all this technical background about Google and sort of the number of sessions and hits you get and all that good stuff. But yeah, so once we started to get people to look at the website and to start, noticing it, things started to happen. I remember when I got my first order, it was so exciting. It was for a pair of leggings, and it was 11:30 at night, and I was at the computer ticking away, and all of a sudden we get this order. I ran upstairs to my husband's room, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, we just got our first order!" And it was so gratifying and so exciting.
I wanted to ask you about that. I'm glad you just shared that because I was trying to picture what that first sale must have been like when somebody found the site. It wasn't, through a friend's living room, which is obviously a smart
No,
way to start marketing, but
yeah,
somebody found you and they made a purchase. And maybe it was one of
yep,
those women who had been there, but they wanted to come back for more. So that's really gratifying. So that's very sweet. So it was a
yeah.
pair of leggings and then off they went.
And
Right.
I went. And she became a repeat customer, and yeah, and we're so thankful and so grateful for that first customer.
Oh, I love that story. That's so special. So it's interesting because you didn't get back into investment banking, but a startup life and based on what you've created is a huge commitment. So it was clear that your kids were a priority. You wanted a different kind of lifestyle. You wanted to be home, but you also wanted something for yourself. So how have you managed to create, I hate that work-life balance model. Like, I don't know that that exists. So what does that look like to you for you though? Like, how do you manage parenting in the way
Yeah.
that you clearly want to parent because it's clear that your kids are a huge priority, obviously, and then also grow this business with this big dream and vision you have for it. How are you doing that?
So you did ask me earlier why I didn't open up a brick and mortar. And in fact, part of the reason why I wanted to start online and out of my house was so that I could have the flexibility to be with my kids and to be
Mhm.
at their school and to pick them up and do all that good stuff with my kids. So that was definitely a big part of it. So um, you know, it's tough. We just figure it out basically. Work life balance means a lot of things to a lot of different people. My
Mhm.
sort of perception of balance is very different from somebody else's. I will tell you that we are this business. I wish there was more time in the day. I wish I had more time to do work, quite frankly. I didn't say that when I was in investment banking. I wish there was more time to do all the things that we want to do. There are so many ideas that we want to put in place. They require significant amounts of investment, significant sort of technological investment, and sort of ideas about, the online business is changing quickly, and so we want to be in front of that. And so there are a lot of things that we want to be doing, but there just aren't enough, hours in the day. But my kids are my priority. My family is my priority, and I want to be there for them. The great thing about this business is, it's my business, and quite frankly, I sort of, I have the flexibility to, take a morning off to go speak with a teacher and then come back and work. And I can make that up at night, which is what I do every day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm with my kids as much as I can. They're in school right now, but I will be there for them after school. We will do homework together. They play guitar, and so, I'll listen to them play guitar. We have dinner. Then we usually do games or board games or card games together as a family at night. And then it's, bed and bath time routine, which is fun and exciting and frustrating at the same time. And then after everyone's off to bed, I'm on the computer for another 3 to 4 hours. So, it's quite frankly, lately I've been thinking about whether I'm getting enough sleep.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you what sounds like you're getting to bed after midnight or 1 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. For sure. Yeah.
Wow. I have to ask, so where did the name come from? It's always fun to know, where did the name Mini Ruby come from? It's a pretty name.
Yeah. Yeah, Mini Ruby. Ruby is one of my daughter's birthstones.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's so cute. Okay, Mini Ruby. I was wondering if there was a connection to one of your kids. Okay, that's super sweet. And did you self-fund, or did you look for outside investors, or did you do it on your own?
Yeah, we're completely self-funded, privately owned, and it's something that we talk about and we consider all the time, and lately more so. In the beginning, we just wanted to see how it went.
Yeah.
I honestly, again, I didn't have a retail background, I had a business background, but I wasn't sure how this was going to go. So for the first couple of seasons, we didn't throw a ton of money into this. We just wanted to see whether there were any buyers and whether we could actually get the inventory from the manufacturer to the customer in a seamless way. So it was sort of an experimental sort of test period for us. And now we're at that point where we're looking at our future growth trajectory and what we've been able to achieve for the past 5 years. And it's on track. And, we see, sort of other folks out there raising money for this, for that. And we do ask ourselves, are we ready to take on, venture capital or private equity money? And we do think about that, but we do like the control that we have over our business. And we think we're doing a great job, and our customers call us, and repeat customers. That's really the validation that we're looking for.
For sure.
But then we do get people who call us, who write reviews, telling us how happy they are with the service, and so if when it comes time to sort of, take this to the next level, we will start to consider those discussions.
Yeah, no, this is exciting. And the truth is, it's an entrepreneurial journey. Like you
Right.
said, you kind of jumped in and said, okay, let's see where this goes. Let's see if we get traction. Let's see, how it all plays out. And then, you're just taking it as it goes. Now, there are going to be women who are listening who've had an idea burning in their heart for a while. They've had a concept and they think, gosh, I would love to do what Susie did. The flip side of that, and I think that's why it's important for people to hear, like, you're not sleeping, which we should talk about that after the call. I'm just joking. I just gave a talk.
I've been reading a lot of articles about this recently.
That's so funny. I just gave a talk to 7-figure female CEOs on the importance of self-care, so
Yes.
sleep is a huge piece of that, but it's just a reality. And I can't say that I don't have the computer on my lap every night, because I do once my daughter goes to bed as well. Absolutely. Early stage stuff requires a lot of a lot of time and, hard work and a lot of heart. So, what do you think, though, is the mindset a woman needs to be successful, to get out there, and really give it her all? Like, what's the mindset?
I think you have to have a can-do attitude. I think that if you really believe in yourself and think that you're smart enough and you're capable enough and then you can do it, you should absolutely go for it. That was sort of our family motto growing up, which was, to have a can-do attitude, and I think it's helped me along the way. So if somebody has that burning desire to fulfill a need, or they see a need in the marketplace, or they see a need in society, whether it's for profit or not for profit, and you feel like you have a particular passion, then I absolutely encourage you to sit down and formulate your vision. And, if that's something that you want to do, I say go for it.
I love that, and I'm actually glad you mentioned, you can do charitable work. You may see a need and just
Right.
wanna give back, and that's so hugely satisfying, and it serves, and it also, fills your own cup as well, so
Yeah.
I love that. I'm curious, your kids, what are they seeing with mom? Are they aware, because you're so present to them, of just how much you're doing and what you're growing? I know they're little, so
I hope so. I
yeah?
hope so. I hope that, part of what drives me every day is that I can be a good role model,
Yes.
and mentor for my kids as my own parents were for me.
Hmm.
Um, so that, I certainly think about that. Um, they're 7 and 9, so I don't know exactly how much of this business they really get. They understand. They certainly love the clothes that they get from Mini Ruby.
Yeah, that's a nice little
But,
perk, right?
yeah, but they come to the office and warehouse. I'm 5 minutes from their school, so they come after
Aw.
school and they hang out and they see us all working. They see us coding, and so I don't know. Perhaps there's something there that they will grow up with, and that they will have.
I think it's beautiful modeling. I think it's excellent. So, okay, so Susie, how do you define success?
Success, I guess, again, that's also a subjective question, and my definition of success could be very different from somebody else's. But when I feel like I've accomplished something, when I feel like I've given something back to society or back to my community, I feel good about myself. I feel
Mhm.
like I've succeeded in that accomplishment or that goal that I had for myself. Getting into college made me feel hugely successful. It's a good
Mhm.
college. I got in and it made me feel successful. I landed my first job, amongst a sea of very competitive folks. I felt very successful. So, when I think about, how I define success for myself, it's when I've achieved and accomplished those goals that I've set out for myself, and my family feels proud of me, my kids feel proud of me, my husband feels proud of me, and
Mm.
ultimately I feel proud of myself.
That's so great.
Um, so yeah.
And do you have a morning routine that fosters your success? Anything you're doing on a daily basis to help
So
you?
morning routine in our house is an oxymoron. Because it's chaotic. Every day is different.
Yeah.
But that's our routine. It's our chaotic, mornings. Getting the kids breakfast and dressed and, socks matching and out the door, and um, to a bus that's been waiting there for 2 minutes, waiting for
Mhm.
us to get out the door. But yeah, so once the kids get on the bus, I, try to exercise a little bit and then come back and I read the paper, have my coffee, answer emails, and then I head to the office around 8:39.
It's great, and it's good to hear the realness of that. It's like, this curated life people are seeing on social that it's
No,
like, "That's not
no.
real." Let's get real, everyone. Life's a little
Yeah.
messy, and we're doing our best, but, you're doing what's in your heart to do, which is what's
Yeah.
most important. Before we wrap up with the final question, I did also wanna ask you, what's your vision for Mini Ruby? Where do you wanna see it in the next 5, 10 years?
Yeah, we really want to grow Mini Ruby. We really feel like we have created something very, very special, and we want to reach a bigger part of the market. We feel like the kids' clothing market is still in its infancy, but we're at a turning point, and I think that there's tremendous growth. As I said before, the total addressable market is something like 60 billion. And there are just a handful of these businesses trying to get the attention of parents and grandparents out there to buy wonderful, high quality, beautiful kids' clothes. And so our growth, our vision is to basically try to capture market share and try to provide an unparalleled level of customer service, along with the widest and best selection of kids' clothing online.
That's great. And so, can you leave the women listening with your three best tips for living a good life?
Sure. First, I would suggest find your inspiration and set goals for yourself. Second, keep checklists and stay organized. Stay in front of your schedules so that you don't feel behind and that you're always playing catch up. And lastly, try not to dwell on the past because things that happened in the past, those are sunk costs. And just, try to look to the future.
Thank you, Susie. This has been such a fun conversation, and I love what you're doing, and I wish you continued success. The women listening who are interested in learning more about you and Mini Ruby, where can I direct them?
Thank you, Michelle. I had so much fun talking to you. And in fact, it was sort of rejuvenative for myself. So thank you very much.
Oh, glad. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah. So please visit miniruby.com, and you can also find us on social media on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. And we encourage you to try us. I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Oh,
Thank you for listening.
thank you. And is it at Mini Ruby on all the social?
It's at minirubycc and at minirubycontemporary on Facebook.
On Facebook. Okay, I'll link those up in the show notes. So thanks again, Susie, for your time, and I wish you the best in your future with the company. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
I really hope that you enjoyed today's interview with Susie and learned some information that could help you in your entrepreneurial journey, or for those of you who just like hearing the stories that you enjoyed today's conversation. All of the show notes can be found over at thegoodlifecoach.com/056 for today. And next week, actually, we're changing gears a bit. I've got on Dr. Carla Brown, who has her PhD in microbiology and started a gaming company to teach children about bacteria and specifically about antibiotic resistance, which is her area of study. It became a very interesting and even fun conversation, and I know you're going to love it. So thanks again for tuning in, and I look forward to reconnecting next Wednesday. Bye for now.